TYFU.
Ready?
I was born ready.
Okay. This is episode 50-something.
Can you believe that? We're in the 50s?
No, I cannot. I can't believe that it's my age also. 50-something.
What? 50-something? Now the podcast is the same
Ish
age as
I'm in the lower 50s.
Ish.
The podcast has a few more episodes than I have years, but
all right.
We're generally in this. We know the same music.
You know the same music. Yeah. You get the same references.
We rode our bikes without helmets.
Oh, edgy.
Well, what do you got going on this week?
Oh gosh. I'm kind of just enjoying that lull before I really have to acknowledge that Christmas is coming. There's like a 2-week period, I feel like, that I can chill out and do nothing until I have to meet with my team and we have to talk about what our windows are going to look like, the merch that we're getting in, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just kind of in that. in that window.
This is true. We are about to go into Christmas mode, which means that we leave podcast mode.
It's true. We take a season. Good lead in.
Okay.
Good lead in. We do this by season. We usually end our season before the craziness of Small Business Saturday, Christmas in retail,
all that it encompasses, all the wonder and joy and
delight,
warm fuzzies of the season.
And then we come back to you guys when we're fully burnt out in January, February. So
we'll see what happens when we relaunch for season 4. But season 3 is about to come to a close. I think we've got one more episode after this one.
I think so too. So let's make it a good one. Let's go.
The pressure's on.
Make these count. Okay.
Yes. So with that, do you have any today in retail that you want to share?
I've had some kooky characters coming in lately, and in both locations. Sometimes people will ask, our one location is in a bigger city than our first location, and sometimes folks will ask, oh, I bet you see all kinds of crazy stuff in the big city. And it's really... you can vouch for this, Beth. We see all kinds of crazy stuff in Geneva,
the little city.
In the little city
as well.
And we see it in the big city. This week, I've had interesting casts of characters in both stores. This one person that keeps coming in, and it's not uncommon for someone to come in, ask if we have any cash, move along. Okay?
What?
Yes. It's never happened to you, I'm sure.
No, not that I have been asked if we take cash.
No one has asked you if they can have $1.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I misunderstood.
Oh, like if I have cash in the building.
Can you give me $10? Or
yes, exactly. Somebody coming in and asking for $1.
Yes. Or asking the customers for money too. That sometimes happens.
Oh boy. I once had to eject a man. That's another today in retail. But I've had this person coming in, very politely asks for $1. Usually we don't have personal cash on us, so we move along, and he not been an issue. Or I'm in the middle of something and I can say, okay, not today, not right now, blah blah blah. He comes in the other day, and I was actively in the middle of something, and I said, let's just call him Bob. I said, hey, Bob, I don't have anything for you today. I'm kind of in the middle of something. And he stands there and he goes, all I'm asking is if you have any socks to give me.
Oh.
And I was like, what? He's wearing sandals on a hot day. Like, it was 80 degrees.
Well, if he's an unhoused person, it might become an issue for him soon. So maybe he's thinking ahead.
And I said, well, Bob, I know for a fact that I don't have any socks but across the street. They do a sock drive every year.
Oh, okay. For just this reason? Yeah.
You could probably find some socks across the street. And he goes, you're telling me you don't have any socks in the building? I said, no, Bob. I don't even have any socks on my own feet today. And he throws his hands up and leaves completely disgusted with me. And
you didn't have a pair of socks in your purse. Yes.
Lack of socks.
Yes.
So yeah, Yeah, that one caught me off guard because I was all ready for the, hey, can I have $1? And it was just so disgusted that I didn't have a pair of socks.
Well,
even though I gave him an option.
you can bring some, I guess, next week.
He wanted my socks.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't want the socks across the street. So yeah, that was my today in retail. Any today in retails for you?
Not really. I mean, I did have an unusual experience insofar as I had somebody come in with a big and difficult piece to do for framing, for picture framing.
We love.
He walked in with it, and I was thinking to myself, this is going to be a challenge. And he said to me, I bet you don't remember me. But I had some work done with you folks a few years ago, and you did a great job, so I'm back for more. And when he started talking,
Oh, no.
it clicked for me who he was.
Yes.
And what I had framed for him. Yep. And what I didn't say to this man was that I remember him pretty well because he had me frame something for him, and I presented it to him when it was finished. I held it up and showed it to him, and he could see plainly and obviously that it was off center by 1/16 of an inch.
1/16 of an inch.
So it's pretty minuscule.
Yes.
And not something that one would normally notice, especially on a very large piece.
Oh, but he did.
I turned it around and looked at it, and he was absolutely correct. I got out my ruler. Some of our rulers don't even have 1/16 marked on them.
Right.
Most
An
rulers
eighth
just have an eighth.
Have an eighth.
But I measured it with our fancy ruler, and it was 1/16 of an inch off.
Which, for those at home, is half. If you're looking at your rulers at home right now, the eighth is the really smallest.
Yes.
And then
the 16th is half of that. So
man, that's a tiny margin.
Asked if I would correct it and make it right.
Of
so
course.
I took it apart and I reframed it. It's a little bit of an ordeal to do that. So he wasn't able to take it home with him that day. I took it apart. I redid it. And when you're centering something that's 1/16 too far to the left, you move it 1/32 of an inch to the right. That's not even on my fancy framing rulers. You know,
right?
You're doing half of the half
of an eighth.
Yes.
Oh, brutal. Did you do it?
I did it. Of course I did it. Because he wasn't wrong.
Incredible
He
work.
wasn't wrong. It was off center.
So was this triggering for you? Was it traumatic when you realized who he was and that he was bringing you more?
Made me a little nervous to see him back in the shop, especially since the piece that he brought in it's printed crooked.
Oh,
it's printed.
No.
The art itself is.
Did you point it out?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
It's on a canvas that's printed on, and the image itself is printed crooked on the canvas. So going to have to be a little, but this is boring for everyone.
Yeah, skip ahead.
Edit. I did point out to him that it was not going to come out perfect because of the way that I have to do it. Yeah. And I wanted to manage his expectations. But the point is, when he walked in and said, I bet you don't remember me, I certainly did remember him. And I think about him all the time. I think about him probably once a day.
Once a day?
Right. When I'm framing. Because I never want to be in that position again where I'm moving something 1/32 of an inch to the left. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So he's on my mind constantly. I didn't remember his face right away.
Guy.
Yes, but I remember him and that problem, and I will for the rest of my life. And I'm grateful to him because he's made me better at my job.
Did it feel good that he came back?
Yes, because I thought he was kind of disappointed.
Right. Like that could go either way. It could be like, oh, thanks for going the extra mile. Or it could be like, oh, you didn't really nail it and I'm never coming back. And here he is.
He came back. He was satisfied with, I guess, my response to his complaint.
Well, good luck with the 30 seconds of the inches that you have to deal with. I love that, though.
We'll see how the next one goes.
It's true that sometimes the most difficult customers make us better at our jobs.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't harbor any resentment about it.
In that sense, we can connect that gratitude. Oh, love that. Love that. It inspires me even. We can even connect the sock man and the frame man in that they're both difficult interactions, but they make you better as a shopkeeper. Mm-hmm. They do. Just talk about it on the podcast and then move on.
All right. Well, I suppose we should get into this, our second to last episode. Do you know whose turn it is to rip the envelope?
I believe it is my turn.
Okay.
To rip the envelope with relish. Here we go. It was a tough one.
Before you say what it is, I just want to thank you again for the relish plate that you brought over tonight. And you ripped the envelope with relish.
With
and I'm
relish.
like, oh, I'll take another one of those olives, Marilla.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah, but unfortunately,
you've got relish on your mind.
Too bad for Kelly Walker. He doesn't like it when we chew and chomp on the mic.
Oh,
so
shoot.
you guys will be spared at home. Mm-hmm. Perhaps.
Well, what does the envelope say?
All right. We have, it seems straightforward.
Okay.
Branding. Easy. Figure it out. Get it done. The end.
Yep. Run your successful business. We'll
Done.
see you for the next episode.
Bada bing, bada boom. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell me about branding in your life.
Ooh, I love it. I love branding. I think if I didn't, at this point in my life, if I hadn't gone into small business ownership, that cruelly masochistic profession that we have chosen, I think I would have gotten into advertising, marketing, and branding, that kind of umbrella of the world, because it is fascinating to me. And branding can be so many things. Mm-hmm. It can be what colors you use. It can be what your personality is as a celebrity. It can be, it's just so much that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. I've had a fraught relationship with branding since I foolishly named my business the wrong thing straight out the gate.
Well, I did too, actually, famously.
Yes, that's right. You named your store something and then you had to change it.
Yeah, so here we are.
But I've never changed mine, which
is interesting, because I think I never would have changed mine either if I hadn't been in a position that I was being threatened with a gun of legality. Like I would not have. I don't think I would have done it without the legal action hanging over my head.
Are you happy that you did?
Yeah. I think it was the best choice in the end.
We've told this story on past episodes. I can't remember
it's popped up.
Yeah, if you're curious, listener, we go into this story about Marilla's rebrand.
It's just a crucial thread of my very being. So if you don't remember it, then you don't care about me.
But yeah, you had to face that. I've sort of, in minor ways, faced it every year. Like, man, my brand doesn't make sense. I need to change the name of the business. I want to change the look of the business. And I've been loath, Marilla,
fraught and loath
to change the name, because each year it's gotten more embedded into the community consciousness.
Let me just say, as someone who changed the name of their business legally.
Oh, it's a pain in the
Oh my God! Would not run. We have the clearance for ass.
I can say it out loud in case any 5-year-olds are listening.
I know we do have that demographic, but yeah, I cannot tell you what a pain in the ass it is to change your name. Even after a couple of years of business, I can't imagine. I can't imagine the paperwork. Oh my God. Even I still have an email from the previous name that I simply can't get rid of, because I cannot get some vendors to contact me correctly. It is so maddening. But I just can't see it being prudent to get rid of it. So it's still there in my life, but all the legal documents have changed. It's a pain. It's a pain. On that side, I wouldn't recommend it ever.
Well, we have somebody who did the brand for TYFU. And that was an interesting journey, too, where we started out, you and I and Kelly talking about what we wanted the TYFU brand to be. Like we went in a couple of different directions until
I feel like we had a lot of clarity for like what we wanted the content of it to be and what the vibe we wanted as far as people listening. But taking that to the visual is sometimes the hardest part when it comes to your business and your idea. And that is where we were getting hung up.
Yes. So we called in a professional. We called in a professional who happened to be a resource in my life. My friend Kyle came on
My
board.
friend Kyle.
And helped
Sounds
us
like
out.
a children's book.
Yes. And so we invited Kyle to join us today to talk about this idea of brand. And I've found out it's way more than just your logo.
Yes.
So it is. Okay. So
Layers.
welcome, Kyle. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Kyle.
Hello.
These pickles are in your honor.
They're amazing.
Kyle, can you tell us about your own brand? Who are you? What do you do? Welcome.
Thanks. Kyle Knobel. I am a brand and identity designer, and I grew up in upstate New York, and then moved out to California, and I'm kind of back and forth.
Do you want to tell us about your career a little bit, things you've worked on? I don't know if you can name specific clients, but
We'll beat them all out. Just let it rip.
Just give us a sense of the type of work that you get hired to do and why you're an expert in this field.
Okay, I started off as a designer because I really needed a job and somebody gave me a chance. I didn't go to school for it. I definitely did not know what I was doing. But over time, I guess I had the curiosity to ask enough questions and just stuck with it. I went to school for art at SUNY Fredonia. Art is a terrible career in the way that I was originally
But keep
thinking
at it,
about
guys.
it.
Don't lose hope.
Don't lose hope.
No, I mean,
Still going.
in the way that I was thinking about it, but I think over time that really expanded. I think when I first started, I was thinking, well, how do I sell my paintings in a gallery?
Right.
And then sort of out of necessity and survival, it really became something else. So I guess, I became a designer out of pretty pragmatic reasons. But then over time, it just became really interesting. It sort of opened up.
Do you remember your first project? Like your first graphic design project?
Yes. Okay, so my first graphic design project was for a full year. I had a job where I was making the same business card every day.
Oh, no. What?
And I would
Sounds
get
very rewarding.
Couldn't you?
Yes.
Couldn't you use it again?
I would get a fax.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I would get a fax and that would literally spit out of the machine that was right in front of my desk. And then I would take what was on that fax and put it into a computer, print it out, refax it back to someone, get the fax back. And then it was, and then I would go and shoot a photographic plate, which would print out on a piece of plastic, and then take that into the offset facility and hand it to someone, and then they would physically print it. And then they would.
And then the telephone was invented.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, the process is fascinating, but you're saying was it the same business card?
It literally was the same business card with someone else's name on it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All
So
right.
there was a minor
All right.
change to
Yes.
each one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one. They printed many once it was, okay,
So
great.
for every employee of the company? Yes. For a year.
For a year.
Yes. And so it definitely taught me to, pay attention to the details. It was also really great because I just totally did not know what I was doing. So it gave me a moment to, get ready for bigger things.
Yeah.
Did you ever see this documentary, Jiro Dreams of Sushi?
Yes.
No, but it sounds lovely.
Again, it came out in probably about the same year the telephone was invented.
Oh.
Quite a while ago.
I am so young. I missed it.
Yes, I know. I know,
Wait,
Marilla.
is this a podcast or a roast here?
Pass. Next question.
Okay, Kyle, but your point?
There's a story in there where basically that the person who makes the soup has to do it for 10 years as an apprentice prior to him being considered worthy enough to, produce it. Or, maybe it's the octopus. I don't remember what dish it is, but, I don't know. There's something about that.
The repetition and the attention to detail and the consistency.
And the simplicity of something, but becoming an expert at that. It was like a lesson in craft, I think.
I like that. So then what was your most recent project that you can talk about?
About a year and a half ago, a company that I had been working with for about 4 years, we rebrand the company on like a Tuesday. It launched on a Tuesday or something like that. And then on the following week, they laid off like a third of the company. And that was me. That was
Kyle. Did you see that coming in any way? Did you?
Was there
were you
rumbles?
like, okay, they're working on this big project. They're going to relaunch, and then we're all useless to them.
We're all
after
canned.
that. Did you see it coming?
I didn't see it coming, but I think what it coincided with was when OpenAI launched essentially like the AI platform, the big AI platform. And so it was just a move that a lot of companies were making, like an opportunistic sort of moment to, rebalance their books, their profit and loss books, and just kind of, it was
On
just
paper,
kind of a standard
that's a
move.
lot of money saved on paper.
So you left that company.
Yep. So I left that
against
company.
Your will.
Yeah. But I think what happened this time was I sort of decided, okay, I'm not going to do this cycle again.
Right.
If there's no security, or if working for a company does not provide security, then I might as well just have a go at it, by myself in a way where I do have some level of control, at least.
Sounds very small business owner. Sounds very relatable.
So this is a man who has been working for basically a big
deals.
company, BFDs, and then is now going out on his own. Does he have what it takes, I wonder?
Should we give him our personality test that we recently came
I know
up
that
with?
he's listened to that episode, Kyle. Did you glean anything from the personality test episode?
I have listened to every episode that you've put
thank
out.
you so much.
Every episode.
Oh my gosh.
That's
51.
over 50 episodes. 51 episodes.
51, 52?
Yeah,
It'll be more than that by the time this drops, so we'll have to edit this.
As far as the personality type goes, I think it's just my perspective that just like there's so many ways to be a great artist or a great actor or something like that, there's so many different ways to, to do business in like an authentic way. So.
Yeah, no, he's wise.
He does seem wise. Mm-hmm. He does seem wise. I was thinking there's so many ways to skin a cat, but that is not eloquent at all. No. Edit.
So are you enjoying working for yourself, Kyle? Or, parts of it, yes, and parts of it, no? How's it feeling?
No, I'm enjoying it. I think that it definitely, it turns up the hustle gene for sure, because you just absolutely need to make it happen to survive, and it's all on me. So I think that I'm showing up harder, really, on like the day-to-day, because if I don't, then I'm literally not getting a paycheck.
Right.
There's just something like very pragmatic about it. As an employee, not that I did, but if I chose to, I would still get a paycheck if I slacked off.
If you phoned it in,
Yeah.
they would still show up. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a sort of urgency to the work that I think small business owners feel every day. It matters.
Yeah, how many times have we talked about groceries? How every sale directly impacts our bills every day. It definitely changes the way you show up to work and the way you think about your brand. Now, Kyle, do you feel like you have been working on developing your personal brand all these years from day one with the faxes of the business cards? Or do you feel like you've had to kind of look at it since this most recent change and revamp, rebrand, redefine, reborn, phoenix from the ashes?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the first thing that makes me think of is sort of making the difference, or sort of, that there is a difference perhaps between like one's personal brand and a professional brand. Mm-hmm. And I think at a certain point, I had kept those really separate. I tried to like dress a certain way when I went to work, in a way that was not necessarily my brand, but I felt like it was professional.
It was your work brand.
Yes. Over time, though, I actually tried to really collapse that, especially as a designer. Like, I felt like the designers are supposed to be the weird people that show up, like, looking a little bit different, maybe, than everyone else. It's sort of its own uniform in a way.
Perhaps they show a little ankle on a warm day.
Perhaps they show a little bit of ankle.
Perhaps. At the office.
Kyle's showing a little ankle right now. Yep.
Oh my God, he really is. I actually didn't look at your ankles. Maybe that's a cruel stereotype about designers. We don't all show our ankles. But I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and I think that also I try to just get more comfortable just showing up as myself, sort of bumps and all. I mean, I think if I was to say what are the hallmarks of my brand, what I would say is that there's an element of craft. Like, I try to really come really strong with the projects that I'm working on, try to really show up for them. I think that I try to be really kind in these projects because it's such a drag being around someone who's not kind. And so that's something that I
can confirm.
That's something that I hope for myself with the people that I work with. So it's something I try to just reflect in how I show up. I think curiosity in general, both like personal and professional, like relational in every sort of way, like gets you through so many, hard, weird, strange, uncertain times. So that would be like another aspect. Yeah, I think that those would be a few, two,
hallmarks.
3. Yeah.
I'm writing down the lingo, the branding lingo.
Well, it's been interesting talking. I'm gonna reveal something about myself. I have seriously considered changing the name of Stomping Grounds. We've talked about it on.
I was going to say, this is not
right.
You've revealed this before.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted some drama. I'm just trying to add some drama to this particular episode.
A little
forgive
tea.
me. Okay.
Here's something I've never told anyone.
Fresh and exciting news. Breaking.
Okay.
Since I was doing this expansion, did I mention the expansion?
That's news. No.
Kyle and I started a conversation like, is this the moment to rebrand the business?
Right.
And when you say that you're writing down some Kyle lingo, I've been kind of going on this little brand journey with Kyle and trying to absorb some things that he's saying about brand. And I have to say that brand is much more complicated than I originally recognized. And it involves a psychology, both your psychology in what you're trying to project, but also the customer or the user's psychology about what they're seeing. And so this journey that I've been going on with Kyle is really kind of more of a philosophical and psychological exploration than just like, do you like this color?
Right, which is what branding and marketing is really, there's so much psychology in it. And that is what's fascinating. So what are you finding? What are you discovering?
Well, Kyle, would you tell me what you think it means when we say something like brand? Like where did that term originate and what we mean or what you mean? We might mean something when we say brand, but I want to know what the designer means.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, okay.
We've got them here. We might as well. Might as well.
Okay, so I think that the idea, like the general history of brand is, it goes back to like a craft moment where basically people were putting marks on the bottom of like pots and pottery. That was considered like a trademark, so that, that your work would be identified, essentially. And an aspect of this, then that started to like apply to different things. For example, people would put their mark on cattle so that, when your land abutted someone else's land and they were ranging, you'd basically know like, whose cattle was whose.
The cows were mingling.
And they literally branded.
Quite literally. Light bulb. Bing. Yeah.
So that's a bit of the history of it. What I think eventually became of brand is that it ended up being essentially like our experience and our like impressions of companies, products, especially now that like so many products have gone digital, and we're carrying them around in our pockets. Essentially, your experience of them is very intimate. So I think here's kind of like the basic way that brands are constructed. Like say someone is going to do a brand refresh. For one, it's just people just sitting around talking and trying to understand like what's going on.
Maybe collaging.
Maybe collaging.
Maybe collaging. Mood boarding.
No, that could be a part of it. Like, for example, when I sat down with Beth, I just was trying to understand, like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening with your business?
What's happening with you?
Happening with your business?
What is with you?
What's happening with your business? Like, what do you want to happen? What are you trying to accomplish here in like a really high level?
And I imagine what's not happening is a question.
Yes, what's not happening for sure. What are the challenges that you're facing? What are the opportunities?
You asked me also what brings me joy.
That's a big part of it. Yep. I think, we show up at work and day after day after day, and what you do there has to tie in some sort of like genuine, organic way with like what you care about and what makes you happy.
I like that. He's good. I like this.
It also, though, needs to connect with an audience who has a challenge or something that they're trying to accomplish, something that they're willing to pay for.
So when Kyle asked you all these questions, Beth, now what did you say? No.
Well, it's interesting because like when Kyle and I started talking about brand, we were talking about it at first in terms of the name. Are we keeping it? Are we considering other options? But to go through that process, Kyle is like, what are the core values of your business? Which, I don't know. Like, and then he asked me questions about what happens when a customer walks in the store. How do you greet them? All those little things.
Right.
How do they move through the store? What if they want to have framing done? What is the step by step? I mean, he asked me in minute detail how that happens from beginning to end to, I think, understand the mechanism of Stomping Grounds.
Yeah.
Yes. I still don't know what he's going to, shoot out of his, design or computer over that.
Kyle's sweating right now.
This is part of the
he's over there sweating
that
bullets.
We've been going on. But then we talked about name, but also we talked about signage. We talked about font. We talked about color. We talked about the literal layout of the store. Kyle asked me to send him a list of stores that I find inspiring or, inside and out. As Kyle and I have been working on brand, he's asking me minute, little detailed questions like that are going to end up informing whatever we come up with at the end. Am I right, Kyle?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think, the reality is this is a business, and, all the decisions you're making are around the success of that business. It's not an art project, it's a business project. So, whatever sort of decisions happen, they are aligned with, your strongest business opportunities. Also, all these details that you told me, it's like, there become these moments of opportunity, like, for example, one thing we talked about was, when someone purchases something, I was like, well, what happens after they purchase something? And you're like, well, I give them a bag if they want it, and they walk out the shop with it. And I said, well, is there anything in that bag? And you're like, well, no, actually there wasn't. So it's about like taking really small opportunities and just trying to like develop them and push them and sort of see where they go.
Something in that bag, such as a rack card or a coupon or a thank you note or a candy or anything like that.
Do you just put what they bought in the bag, or is it like a tiny goodie bag, plus their item?
Directional to Marilla's, it could be. Do you know what I mean?
Why don't you have a directional to Marilla's?
I hadn't
now
talked
that
to
you
Kyle
mention
yet.
it.
But the fact that something extra could be in that bag.
Smart.
On the day-to-day, do you put anything in your bags?
I don't have bags.
That's right. That's right.
For shame, Beth.
But cross-marketing, that is a thing. You could put Marilla's coupon in your bags and vice versa.
You know what I do? I give people a TYFU card quite frequently. Yeah. I have those at my register, and I say, oh, do you like a podcast? Here, take one of these. I do cross-market our podcast a little bit.
Now, my business mind would ask you, though, how many steps away is that from someone actually going to Beth's business? Because they would have to look at the card, look at the podcast, listen to the podcast.
Oh, it's not for Beth. It's just for the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. How many steps away is it
only thinking of
from them listening to the podcast, though, even? Just because you give somebody a card doesn't mean that they're going to
scan the QR.
Yeah.
Check it out. Remember it. I know. I think the podcast has been a challenge, which is why I'm glad that you've been along for the ride with us in a sense, Kyle, because it's more intangible than a shop, and it's been such a challenge for my very inexperienced marketing and branding mind to kind of wrap my head around how do you convert people to go and listen to your podcast? How do you build that experience outside of clapping headphones on strangers in the park and making them listen? It's very tricky, but I imagine, Kyle, you have to deal with intangible brands all the time, and this is old hat for you.
I mean, it's interesting because I think that this is and is not a podcast about owning a small business in a small town. For me, at least as a listener, in some ways, it's like how to behave as a human in these sort of experiences that we feel like they're transactional on the surface, but once you start digging deeper, they're more like the opportunities, the public-facing opportunities we have to really interact with other humans. And outside of retail, I mean, there are some, like you could take a class or you could, go to the park or something like that. But I feel like the most readily available one is really like retail. So I don't know. I've learned so much about just how to behave slightly. I mean, and I don't consider myself to be like a total buffoon all the time, but I have definitely like learned a lot in some of like, the more finer points of just, I think one is like how much thought and love really goes into these small businesses. And, in some ways, it's like the assumption is one of transaction. Like sometimes people come in shops, and I don't even think that they see that there's like another human there. It's sort of like
Right.
there's like they're a robot. Yes.
Right. Right.
Yes.
It's like just a little museum box.
Or a prop. Like, yes.
Yeah.
But then from your episodes, I've learned that sometimes you're, sitting there after dinner and you're thinking about customers. You're thinking about a transaction that you had.
Yes.
You're wondering where someone is. And this is very like real, very human stuff. So I think there's that back and forth, which I think is
We're thinking about that man who says he's a designer with his ankles showing that came in earlier, who is such a nice guy, what he's doing or what he's eating for dinner.
Does the podcast, as it's evolved over the last few years, match the original logo that you made for our brand?
I think that the brand does match, my original impression with sort of my experience of it after being, 50 episodes deep. I still feel like it is, part Americana, part American dream. This idea of like owning your own business and finding success, having independence through that experience, and this sort of like vernacular of these small commercial buildings that are in the illustration. I don't know. For me, that still resonates.
So we don't have to rebrand.
Oh, thank God.
At least we don't need a new logo.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. Yeah, and I think that's something that's good. I mean, I was forced to do that, but I think it is healthy when you have your own business or brand to look at it critically from time to time and say, is this still reflecting who I am and what I want it to be? And it doesn't have to equal crisis. I think sometimes that can feel like an identity crisis as a small business owner. If you're like, oh my God, I don't like anything in this place and I don't like the way it looks anymore. It's not who I am. It's okay to like step back and revamp. Some of the biggest brands in the whole world have completely changed their vibe through the years.
Brands are like living, breathing, entities. Like there is an evolution, there is a dialogue, I think, between, what the original idea was and then how it lives out in the world, and there's always that sort of back and forth. So ideally there's enough sort of, flexibility that things can kind of like grow and evolve as needed without necessarily totally scrapping. The other thing is that the idea of brand is really based on your values. And so, and hopefully your values are consistent. You don't wake up one day and just say like, I don't care anymore.
I'm a totally different person.
I don't care anymore about the environment. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
that would be hilarious.
It hasn't happened yet.
And hopefully, your brand is built on your core values, and so you can continue that on, even if like the details change.
Even the name.
We've all become really cozy with multinational global corporations, and that's because they've spent trillions upon trillions of dollars to invasively come into our lives.
Talking Nike.
Sure.
Talking Adidas. Yeah, any of those.
TV,
crazy big.
Your pocket computer, whatever, they are really in our lives. So we have a certain level of comfortability with the idea of like, what is brand? I feel like you'd be hard pressed to go out in the street and just ask someone that question and they would have no idea what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure that matters as much as really like, what is your experience of a company?
Right.
And that, to bring this back to small business a little bit, like, for me, I would say like it's more important to think about, what is the type of experience you want people to have when they walk in your front door than, like, what does my logo look like, or what is my particular color set? Now, that said, like, I think that, you do have probably really, in many ways, not that a brand is only a logo, but there usually is a single identifier which is sort of identifies your business. Like, for example, with Stomping Grounds, it would be, the letters above the front windows. And so there is usually a mark that boils down all your hopes and dreams and fears and business ideas and represents the vibe. And it's a very quick check. It's like a quarter second, like you turn your head, you see this thing, and then you kind of make up your mind, So it's important. I'm not going to say it's not important, but equally as important is like, what is the experience people have when they walk in your front door?
I want to speak to that, and I'm going to name a brand. A few weeks ago, I went on a vacation. I stayed in a I had the most god-awful, nightmarish experience in this
We're going to get canceled. Right. I know. Going to come for us.
And people who take care of your properties and run respected businesses via I'm very sorry. But that brand is a freaking liar.
Right.
So even if their brand is very good, my experience of the brand was terrible. And every time I see these lies that they're telling through their marketing,
yes,
I get more angry. So it's almost like the better their branding is, the more pissed off I am about what happened to me. And the more people I tell, now the whole podcast
knows. I mean, you could say the same thing for brands like I get constantly, I mean, the little happy
face, and you're just
the little happy smile face as they work really hard to destroy planet Earth.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, I mean, I will become irate seeing their great marketing, but it doesn't, to go back to what Kyle was saying, it doesn't line up with the little smiley face doesn't line up with my experience of the brand. In my world. And so that's frustrating as a consumer. Same thing could be said for Walmart, the yellow smiley face. Like, I don't really feel like a yellow smiley face when I have to go to Walmart. Like,
there's a saying that, the brand is not what you tell people it is, but rather how they experience it. And it is a really tricky situation there needs to be a strong alignment between the reality of what you're putting out in the world and sort of, the way you're communicating it.
I'm wondering if you are a brand that has experienced horrid PR or famously your consumers or customers have had bad experiences for who knows how long. And then maybe there's new management. Maybe you've had a turn of heart. Maybe you're Mr. Scrooge and now you're nicer. And do you close that bit? Do you scrap that brand entirely that people have had bad experiences with? Or do you think, as a designer and a brand expert in some sorts, can you redeem that brand and the negativity associated with it through through some very intentional choices, maybe? I don't know.
Certainly not by slapping lipstick on a pig.
Right. That's, yeah.
But I think, we're talking about redemption essentially. And,
with the consumer.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything is possible. And if people are truly doing good work in the world, they're doing good work in the world. I think about when you say that, it reminds me of who is now, a lot of their advertisements now and even their product functionality is, messaging the fact that you're safe.
I noticed this.
Yeah, when a lot of people have not been safe. And
right.
Launched in San Francisco, where there was a law that people who wanted rides and were hiring a taxi, that those taxis were licensed, and each one of those taxis had a coin that was associated with it, and that was the law. And came in and they subverted that law. I believe that they operated illegally for a certain part of time, and then eventually, like, they had the laws changed. I'm sure by spending marketing, or by I'm sure
lobbying.
by lobbying.
Yeah.
Also treated its employees really poorly, and
I remember
and continues, from like the level of, they had a CEO, who was eventually ousted. He was, there was just a really negative culture. So, you talk about this idea, this is like a company that has really struggled with rottenness from like the inside out.
Right.
So, as to whether or not that's a company that's going to be able to, clean up its image, it depends on what type of work they're going to do out in the world.
Yeah, and kind of starts from the ground up in a sense, and they're already up. So they kind of have to, it's interesting. That's a great example because I noticed the same thing in their ads. They're like, it's safe. It makes you feel better and, make sure everything okay. And I'm like, okay, guys, we're talking about like famously sketchy. I've used an Uber many times, but like you guys are not the most wholesome company in the world. So it's just kind of a matter of time to see if they can actually line up their inside with the outside image they're projecting.
Once a customer or a group of customer, a demographic has bad experience after bad experience after bad experience with or whatever other company, like there's only so much a good brand can do to hold back the tide of negative experiences that people are having, which I guess is your point, Kyle.
Yes, it's not about changing one's impression of a negative experience, but changing the experience itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A color or a logo or a font is really only the surface, and it has to go much deeper than that.
So is that why when we started our process together, you asked me what are the core values of your business?
Yes.
Otherwise, if you answered wrong, he would have been like, never talk to me again. lose my number.
Of our decades-long friendship.
Our lifetime friendship. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a horror story. Like, you have a brand, and it can happen. Uber started sketchy and has had sketchiness throughout its track record, but it can happen to something that starts really wholesome, and then new management or a new generation takes over, wreck it. And then maybe the next generation wants to be better.
The next generation of consumer doesn't hold the same values.
Maybe.
Like a brand like, let's say, Sears, for instance, because it had been an established brand for a century. But then the world changed, the consumer base changed, priorities changed. Nobody's, buying Sears because it's the greatest and their best. We're buying other stuff because it's cheaper. And so the brand is holding on to its old identity, but it can't in the modern world.
Okay, so you asked about a brand earlier that I am a fanboy over. And the one brand that I am a fanboy around is Kodak.
Kodak!
Interesting.
Rochester. I'm Rochester born, so was Kodak. At a certain point, my grandfather, my uncles, my father, my mother, like all sorts of people in my family worked at Kodak. And so I guess it's something that has like a deep resonance within me, even if it's not the company that it once was. I think that that's a great example to respond to what you're saying about a company that, it had its time and then the world moved on. And I think that they have really struggled to move on with it, and perhaps it's just not always possible.
Yeah. So no matter how strong the brand was,
and still is in really
people's memories
people
or
recognize
hearts.
it still to this day.
Yeah, interesting.
At one point, Kodak literally had they had a message on their website that said, "Do not contact us with your ideas."
What?
And this was in like the early aughts. Like it literally, they'd sort of gone underground, and it was a message that was like, we continue to have a lot of interest in Kodak, and we're kind of behind the scenes trying to figure out the next best thing. But do not reach out with your ideas. Like they literally said that.
Stop telling us what we should do.
And kind of, don't tell me what to do. But I thought that was sort of maybe indicative of kind of like the problem therein.
Yeah.
Oh, that they weren't listening?
Yeah.
Marilla, remember we had an episode called You Should Just.
Yes.
About everything that people tell us that we should
just do.
Imagine if we're Kodak.
Oh my God.
But I think the difference is, we are open to some suggestions.
And if you're not, the thing is, as maddening as those suggestions are for your store, for your brand, you have to be able to like swallow your pride sometimes and take some of those suggestions to be a successful business.
At least be gracious.
You have to be gracious and at least be able to say, okay, don't tell me what to do. But then later after dinner, when you're still thinking about all the stuff that happened that day, go, okay, well, maybe that was a good idea.
Maybe we should go digital.
Maybe I'll consider that.
Maybe film is dead.
I mean, I definitely learned from TYFU that I should keep my suggestions to myself, what I mean, for the most part, unless asked, and I think
you're welcome, Kodak.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. You know what I mean? I never considered how like annoying that might be to, receive suggestions that are not asked for.
We've talked about a lot of different things, and without putting you too much on the spot, you've talked about how value is important when it comes to branding. But for our listeners who might be starting their own business or brand, or revamping their business or brand, or thinking differently about their business or brand because of this very episode, are there any like hot tips that you would recommend for that small business owner who's just like, here's square one. Yeah, you got to do this, this, and this. Start there, and then call me.
I think that the most important part is actually the business plan. Trying to really understand, how this business is going to succeed. So that's a major part of it, because that's going to, inform so much of the choices that you're going to make. I think as we talked a fair amount about like understanding your values, I think is also like incredibly important, because, our values, they're more evergreen, like they may evolve over time, but it's something that can be a consistent rudder to sort of, steer the ship.
Figuring out your why.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes. To a certain extent, like, for example, if you have a brand that's very trendy, it is going to be shorter lasting.
Right.
If you have something which is based on something that is a little bit more traditional in a way, then it's going to last longer. So that should definitely be a consideration.
So lifespan of what you're...
Yeah. If you pick this season's hottest color, it's going to be really short, and in a couple of years, like it's going to be painful.
The year that I picked our color for Marilla's, which is a periwinkle blue, I picked it for a very specific reason, for a very specific why that aligns with our values. The next year, it was named Pantone's Color of the Year. And I was like, well, great. Now everybody's going to be sick of it, and I'm going to be stuck with it for the rest of my brand. But it's specific for us, and it works because of the value and the why. But I can also identify with that like trendy issue, because it really felt like it could bite us in that moment.
Yes, it could date you.
It could date us, right? Like avocado green was big, or millennial pink, or like any of those. I had that moment of panic that I was like, oh my God, is this going to be...
I've got to rebrand.
haven't even done this for 12 months yet. Yeah. So that's good advice.
Yeah. I mean, one way to think about that is like, for example, something that's fixed and then something that's flexible. So for example, something that's fixed might be longer lasting, like say the color's black and white. And then something that's flexible is something that perhaps is more seasonal, so like a set of colors that, that you can flip in and out, that you can evolve over time. So you would, in design, they would call those secondaries. But that you have these primaries, which are something that's more stable, less trendy, and that'll like carry you through. So if in 2 years you swap out the secondaries, people aren't going to be lost. They're still going to be able to like
they might even
you.
be excited. Yeah.
But I think the average consumer is not going to necessarily notice if your secondary changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think that they're consciously going to notice, but I think that subconsciously we notice all sorts of things. Like, for example, do I feel comfortable in this room? Why don't I feel comfortable in this room?
What? Do you feel comfortable in this room?
Not this room.
Now Beth is sweating
This room's
bullets.
Go to great
amazing.
lengths to make you comfortable.
Yeah.
But, if you go into a pizzeria and the walls are like purple and brown or something like that, it's going to have a psychological effect on you. You're probably not going to want to eat the food on some level, or at least you're not going to want to go back there 2 days a week. So I think, these choices we make, they're subtle and almost like subliminal, but someone's not, necessarily like calling out the color of the wall.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you have any other questions, Beth?
I guess I just want to know, Kyle, now that you're working for yourself, if you feel differently about a difficult client rather than you're not before your difficult client was your company that you were working for, right? Everybody likes to gripe about the company that they're working for.
Right.
But do you how is it working with customer after customer after customer after customer? And do you have any nasty stories you can tell us? Because that's why our audience showed up today.
Yeah, that's why we're here. And we've let you ramble long enough. It's time we get down to brass tacks.
I mean, there's a saying that like your ideal customer is the customer that you have. And I think that is, there's some real like truth to that. To take the high road, that's the high road.
Yeah, okay, get out of there.
Let's go into the ditch. Off the high road into the ditch.
We're off-roading.
So, there's challenges with every client. There's challenges with every customer, and I try to work on those relationships as best I can. That said, there does become a certain point where you decide like life is too short, and I need to get out of this relationship.
Have you broken up with a customer?
Oh yeah, and there's nothing better than the feeling of
50 minutes in or whatever, didn't ask.
There's nothing better than the feeling of like, there being a relationship, you've really tried to work at it, you feel like you've done your all, and then you just kind of tell them like, hey, like, thank you so much, but, I need to move on to other projects, and, try to keep it positive, but...
yeah, but on the inside, you're like, you're a rotten human being.
You're fired.
And I'm firing you. You're fired.
Yeah, I had one client in particular that, when I first got let go, it was not a great moment financially. I'm not independently wealthy. And when they, when the previous company let me go, I really needed some work. And a company came along and they wrote a big check for a big project.
Which is
great. Except I discovered pretty quickly that I did not align with the values of this company.
Oh, no.
So that was a challenge. And, I tried to just affect change where I could. And, be polite and to, give them what they had hired me to give.
Right.
You know, because that's what I do. I'm a professional, and I am also trying to support my family. So there's a real pragmatic side to that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That said, like, for example, this company had a problem with diversity in photography, for example.
No, say it ain't so. That's like the kindergarten of being a good company, though. Like,
But I think what I don't want to spoil the story and jump ahead, but didn't they say to you, like, that's not our customer?
They did
like
say
just
that.
diverse.
Yeah.
Walk me through this, Kyle. They had a problem with diversity in the photography.
Sure, I mean, white supremacy.
Okay, great. I was going to say,
Walk me through it.
Seems like a lead. Seems like we're leading to something. So they just wanted white people in their pictures?
They did.
Oh, my God.
You know, I think that for some white folks, they haven't hip to the reality that the world is not primarily white anymore, just in a pure demographic sense.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And yeah, I mean, I think I think that it sort of literally made them nervous, and they just literally said, you know, like, this does not reflect our audience. Yeah.
What are you? Well, I'm trying to think of a product that would apply to, and there's almost nothing that I can think of that.
No, it's not the reality, but I think it's
gross.
their reality.
Yeah. And then you realize that, and how long had you been working for them when this conversation came up, and you were like, oh, interesting.
Wow. I really hope they're not listening.
They don't. They're not.
Well, we can always edit this out.
Yeah, we
What
can
ended
just
up
scrap
happening
it.
actually was, you know, so in the instance of them saying, like, we only want white people in our photography, you know, I tried to ask questions around that.
Right.
You know, I tried to come at it with some curiosity and sort of say, like, you know, well, you know, tell me more. Like, what does that mean? You know, like,
Beth says
like,
that
who's your
sometimes.
audience? You know, and then I tried to, like, point out, like, for example, this company they were like they're making an engineering product. And I was like, well, I've worked at a lot of companies, and I wouldn't say necessarily that the engineers were only white, you know. Like, that's not my experience, you know. That's not my lived experience.
Oh, my
you know?
God.
But then ultimately, you know, they make the decisions that they're going to make.
Right. Right.
What ended up happening with this company was they actually just abandoned the project.
Wow.
And I sent them an invoice, and they sent a check.
That was
and I
it.
never heard from them again.
Well, maybe it worked, Kyle. Maybe you got to them.
Yeah.
That's crazy bananas. I thought you were going to be like, well, this one company just loved Comic Sans, and I couldn't get them to stop using it. And instead it was that. Wow. Yeah, that's wild. And to have to be the person in that room to say that is like, has got to feel a little bananas to be like, okay, am I the only person asking this question?
Yeah, and I would definitely say, like, that's a very bizarre outlier experience.
Oh, yeah.
You know, obviously.
That's good.
It's like the opposite of, you know, where most companies want to go at this point.
Right. Thank goodness. That's a good horror story, Kyle. We'll edit it all out and we won't air any of it, but I enjoyed it.
Well, I think I have Kyle to myself after this podcast episode. You know, I can
Wow.
ask him any further questions I want about brand. But I think that if our listeners have any questions that they want to follow up with Kyle about, I think he'd probably be willing to answer them.
Yeah, so send us messages,
Yeah.
DM us.
And
if
Kyle,
you're-
do you want to send people your
Your cell phone, your personal cell phone number. Do you want us to put that up?
You want to send them to your website at all? Or
Your MySpace?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, there's another old person
MySpace.com/.
They'll put you in his top 10.
Yeah, I don't think my MySpace is up to date right now, but my website is Knobel.studio, KNOBEL.studio.
I love that.
Yes, and actually on his front page, you can see his values. He lists them all out.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can get to know if this brand aligns with my values.
Exactly.
Smart. Interesting. Yeah. So reach out if you if you have a branding conundrum that you're in, formally to Kyle. Informally, just slide into our DMs and we'll ask Kyle when we tell him what next week's title is.
I know. Yes. Let's just review that though. Kyle does all the titles for the podcast. He's done the website graphics. He's appeared by name on this podcast a couple of times. He was in Garden of Delights.
Yes.
When he went to the grocery store parking lot with me. Yes. So he's, really basically part of the team. Truly.
He is. He is. And right now, Kyle, I just noticed this today. Right now, if you go to our Instagram, we've been posting a lot on Threads. So there's not a lot of cluttering reels and visuals on our Instagram right now. So if you go right now to our Instagram, it is this beautiful quilt work, patchwork quilt of Kyle's artwork and the tiles from our episode, and I love it, and it makes me not want to put any reels up because it looks so nice and cohesive. So go look at our Instagram and then go talk shit on Threads with us.
All right. Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We chat about the biz, it is the way it is. Thank you for understanding.
We sincerely thank you for understanding. Please visit us at tyfupod.com to learn more about the show, share prompt ideas, or tell us about your own small business experiences. We may include your story in a future episode. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at TYFUpod or at tyfupod.com. Our theme music was composed by Marilla Gonzalez. The show is produced by Kelly Walker. Too bad for Kelly Walker.
Hey, Kelly Walker.
Poor guy.
I'm going to wake him up.
Just have him roll over.
Kelly Walker, your story.
Has this ever happened?
No.